Bonjour YouTube, it's Riche. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment on my videos. George Floyd's story, I've cried a couple of times out of anger, out of the feeling of helplessness. He was killed by the Gestapo, what we call the police in America, with a knee on his neck. Now, I have a cousin that's a police officer. I have an uncle that retired from the police force, and they both share that that is not a tactic that they were ever taught. They never, ever did anything like that. My cousin spoke out, posted something on Facebook saying, you know what, that dude is trash. That police officer is trash. They are all trash. That was garbage. And he, as a police officer, is frustrated and says it needs to stop. Well, I know it can only stop from within. The root of the evil comes from within. In Minneapolis, I was raised in Minneapolis. And, you know, I heard the horror stories. I never encountered the police. Ever. But my brother did. So I'm going to read a story, an article rather, out of, from CNN's website. Headline, George Floyd's family says 4 officers involved in his death should be charged with murder. And before I even read that, the rest of it, I totally and completely agree. They all need to be charged with murder. Totally. I've heard conflicting stories. 1, that he supposedly wrote a bad check. 2, that he was supposedly trying to pass off a bad counterfeit bill. Either case, I'm curious of why Cub Foods, they decided to call the police for a bad check. For real? Oh, what was he trying to write, a $10,000 check? I mean, what would possess you to call the police? But that's my first thought, but I digress. The family of George Floyd, who was killed, murdered by the Gestapo, that in America is called the police, after pleading that he couldn't breathe while a police officer held him down with a knee on his neck, says they want the 4 Minneapolis officers, Gestapo, involved, charged with murder. They were supposed to be there to serve and to protect, and I didn't see a single one of them lift a finger to do anything to help while he was begging for his life. Not one of them tried to do anything to help him. Tara Brown, Floyd's cousin, told CNN's Don Lemon. In an emotional interview Tuesday night, Brown and Floyd's 2 brothers held up his picture and spoke of a man who didn't hurt anybody, and who they described as a gentle giant. Knowing my brother is to love my brother, Phineas Floyd said. They could have tased him. They could have maced him. Instead, they put their knee in his neck and just sat on him and then carried on. They treated him worse than they treat animals. Four officers involved were fired Tuesday, the police department said, and state and federal authorities are investigating the case. Minneapolis police said officers were responding to an alleged forgery Monday evening and were told a person later described as the suspect was sitting on a car. They found Floyd, who at that point was inside a car, and police said he physically resisted after he got out. Officers handcuffed Floyd, who police said appeared to be suffering medical distress. He was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead, the police said. So I'm going to stop right there. The medical distress, could it be that you had this post or this video is certainly not age appropriate. Anybody under the age of 18, definitely, I'm warning you now, and I'll definitely put there's cussing in this. A lot of it. It's very unladylike, so please forgive me. But I am beyond mad. I am beyond furious. And I don't know any other words to describe the anger going through me right now. So there may be some curse words in this video. So just FYI. But when I saw that official statement from the Minneapolis Gestapo, I was like, appeared to be suffering medical distress. You mean the fucking knee in his fucking neck? Is that the medical distress you're talking about? You subhuman piece of slime. Is that the medical distress you're talking about? Let me tell you why I think Police Chief Arredondo fired all 4 of them. Because they all 4 sat there and lied. And that's why that statement came out. And then the video hit. And I can only imagine Police Chief Arredondo, after the mayor of Minneapolis came out and said, this is horrible, this is abhorrent. The police chief took one look at that video and then looked at all 4 of them and said, you get your motherfucking asses out of here right the fuck now. Get out. You are fired. First it was administrative leave, but then he saw that video. See, administrative leave, they always get placed on administrative leave with pay during an investigation. But then there was the video. And that took out any doubt in their mind. And so Police Chief Arredondo was like, motherfuckers, you lied to my motherfucking face. You lied. You lied not only to my motherfucking face, but then you turn around and lied in this fucking statement that we didn't put out, and now this video done hit. So not only are you racist pieces of shit, but you have now made my department look like racist pieces of shit. The mayor of Minneapolis came out and said a black man should be able to live in peace, be not afraid of the police. This man should not have been killed. I can't imagine Arredondo going, well, you know, under the circle. I can only imagine him being like, okay, motherfuck the bullshit. You got to go. All 4 of you motherfuckers gotta go. But that's just me. That's how I'm seeing it. And because it was quite blatant, and I'm looking at this, the picture of this motherfucking piece of subhuman slime with his fucking knee. That dude, the police, the Gestapo with his knee on that man's neck has to be at least 6'1", 6'2", just looking at the diameter of his fucking leg. You piece of shit. You have about 250, 300 pounds on a man's neck. You can imagine the anger, the frustration. I have grandchildren. I have a son. Right now, my son is stationed in South Korea. He's safer there than he is in America. Let me finish reading the rest. Video captured by bystanders at the scene of the arrest show an officer with his knee pressed against the neck of the 46-year-old who was handcuffed on the pavement, complaining that his body hurt and he couldn't breathe. 2 officers handled the man on the ground, while another stood by with his eyes on the bystanders as traffic passed. Surveillance video obtained from a nearby restaurant shows the first point of contact police had with the man. An officer escorted a handcuffed Floyd out of a car, and Floyd sits on the sidewalk. Moments later, the officer and another escort Floyd away, still with his hands behind his back. George's brother, Rodney Floyd, told CBS that he didn't believe George was resisting arrest. You have eyes. I have eyes. You can see what you saw. You can see what you saw. Let me say it again. You can see what you saw. Rodney Floyd said in an interview that CBS This Morning aired Wednesday. And I saw, and the nation saw, and every black person saw the same thing, because it doesn't happen to nobody else. The police officers Federation of Minneapolis said in a statement the officers were cooperating in the investigation and urged, now is not the time to rush to judgment while the officers' actions are examined. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. Fuck what you talking about. Fuck what you're talking about. We all saw what rush to judgment would that be? That my eyes saw that piece of shit with his knee and that man's neck? Is that are we rushing to judgment there? Are my eyes lying to me? I'm going on. They need to be charged with murder because what they did was murder, Brown told CNN. And almost the whole world has witnessed that because somebody was gracious enough to record it. George Floyd's sister, Bridget Floyd, told ABC on Wednesday that she also wants the officers arrested. The officers firing are definitely not enough justice for me and my family, she told Good Morning America. I feel those guys need to be put in jail. They murdered my brother. A day after George Floyd's death, hundreds gathered at the same intersection where Floyd was pinned to the ground and later marched to the police precinct to protest his death. The protesters chanted, "No justice, no peace, and I can't breathe." Some demonstrators wheeled a shopping cart full of rocks just outside the precinct and dumped it on the ground for people to throw. A CNN team there reported. Police sprayed tear gas to disperse the crowd after some people turned unruly, a spokesperson for the police office department said. Unruly, did they have any kind of bazookas like them assholes that because they were told they had to social distance and put on a mask and gloves, but they couldn't get their hair cut and couldn't go to Applebee's, they brought fucking bazookas to the fucking Capitol? Unruly like that? Let me go on. I can't breathe. The video of Floyd's encounter with police that has circulated on social media shows one police officer with his knee on Floyd to keep him on the ground. "Please, I can't breathe," the man says, protesting for several minutes before he becomes silent. Bypassers urged the officer to release the man from his hold. The technique is against department regulations, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey said Tuesday, and the officer had no reasons to employ it. The technique that was used is not permitted. It is not a technique that our officers get trained in on, he said. Our chief has been very clear on that piece. There is no reason to apply that kind of pressure with a knee to someone's neck. In the video, the police officer's leg remains on Floyd for several minutes, even as the man is pleading for help. "My stomach hurts," Floyd can be heard telling the officer. "My neck hurts. Everything hurts." At one point, the man said, "Get me some water or something, please, please." By the end of the video, Floyd is seen motionless, his eyes shut, laying on the pavement. The incident recalls the 2014 death of Eric Gardner, who also uttered the words, "I can't breathe," while in a New York officer's chokehold. Since Gardner's death, the phrase has become a rallying cry throughout the Black Lives Matter movement. That officer never faced charges. He was fired in 2019 after being found guilty in a disciplinary trial of using a chokehold on Gardner and later sued the company over his termination. Yeah. Racists never want to admit that they're fucking racist. And they're fucking scared of black men because of their own racism. Because of the lie that they continue to believe about black men. Your fear does not negate my life, you piece of shit. Floyd's cause and manner of death remains pending and is being investigated by local, state, and federal law enforcement, the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office said in a statement. Frey offered his condolences to Floyd's family Tuesday, adding that what the video shows was utterly messed up. For 5 minutes, we watched as a white officer pressed his knee to the neck of a black man, Frey said in an interview in a news conference. When you hear someone calling for help, you're supposed to help. This officer failed in the most basic human sense. What happened on Chicago and 38th is this last night is simply awful. It was traumatic, and it serves as a clear reminder of how far we have to go. Being black in America, he added, should not be a death sentence. I concur. The FBI is investigating. The Federal Bureau of Investigations has opened an investigation into Floyd's death, which will focus on whether the Minneapolis Police Department or the Gestapo involved willfully deprived Floyd of a right or privilege protected by the constitutional laws of the United States, according to a statement from the FBI Minneapolis Division. The FBI said it will present its findings to the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Minnesota for consideration of possible federal charges. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is conducting its own investigation into possible violations of Minnesota statutes, the FBI said. U.S. Senator A.B. Klobuchar of Minnesota told CNN's Chris Cuomo after the incident, "To me, this evidence is just crying out for some kind of a charge. I know that officers, including in my state, look at that incident and they say that let me make sure I say this correctly. I know that officers, including in my state, look at that incident and they think that is wrong. That can't happen. That cannot happen. And that kind of message has got to be sent to the African American community from the law enforcement community." Amy Klobuchar, who Joe Biden is considering or is vetting for vice president. I need to share this with you, sweetie, because I know you don't have a frame of reference. We in the African American community hear a lot of lip service. We always get a lot of lip service when it comes to blatant violations to our constitutional rights. We hear it all the time. We hear it all the time. Blatant. Just blatant. Our constitutional rights. Matter of fact, when the Constitution was created, at that time, they looked at us as 1/3 of a human being. So those rules didn't even apply to us. The Constitution didn't apply to us because we were looked at as chattel. They didn't even think we were human. Yet we were doing their fucking work. My ancestors did your ancestors' fucking work, okay? My enslaved ancestors did your fucking work. My enslaved ancestors were raped by yours. When my enslaved ancestors came over, they were 100% from Africa. To this day, I have 22% of European in me. How'd that happen? Mesdames and messieurs of YouTube, you can't imagine how thoroughly and utterly disgusted I am with this whole entire thing. I personally think that police piece of subhuman garbage that killed that man, I think he is a part of an alt-right group called Adam Waffen. He looked right in that camera. He knew exactly what he was doing. He killed that man on purpose to send a message. And who was he sending a message to? The world as we knew it ended when Trump became president. This is a brand new world, mesdames and messieurs, ladies and gentlemen.